How's it going, guys? It's Hank here from Hitting for the Cycle, and I just want to take this time to say congratulations to the Texas Rangers on winning their first ever World Series championship. This one took, um, 52 years into the making, 63 if you count their time as the Washington Senators, but first ever in franchise history after one of the biggest legacies of failure in baseball. And the way they did it was just so improbable. I mean, they fought tooth and nail just to get in the playoffs in a three-way division race. Ultimately, they settled for the wild card. And, even though they didn't have as good of a second half in the season, once they got into the playoffs, they absolutely turned it on, swept the Rays, swept the Orioles. They had a tough 7-game series against the Houston Astros, but facing elimination, they won the last two games in dramatic fashion, and they absolutely destroyed the Astros in the process, winning all the games on the road, I might add. And then the World Series, you had Adolis Garcia hitting that clutch walk-off home run. This after Corey Seager tied it with a dramatic home run of his own in Game 1. And after the Diamondbacks showed a little bit of hope in Game 2, the Texas Rangers just dropped the hammer on the Diamondbacks. And the crazy thing is, Adolis Garcia, who up to that point had been their best player during the playoffs, ended up missing the last two games because of an injury he had in Game 3. But, it didn't really matter. You still had a lineup that was extremely deep with guys like Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, rookie sensation Evan Carter. They were a really good situational hitting team. Josh Jung and Jonah Heim also, to name a few. And at the end of the day, when you really look at it, despite some of the injuries and adversity that they had, it's no real surprise that this team ended up winning a World Series. So hats off to the Texas Rangers. And I have a few more fun facts I want to say, and I want to list off some players that I'm really happy for with regards to the Texas Rangers. Let me talk about the players who I'm happy and people associated with the Rangers that I'm happiest for winning World Series. Number one, I have to go with Jordan Montgomery, former Yankee pitcher who, unfortunately, the Yankees traded in the middle of the 2022 season. And, this didn't really come back to haunt the Yankees until really what happened to Harrison Bader. But seeing what he did in the playoffs, he was absolutely dominant against the Houston Astros. Was the only Texas Rangers pitcher to lose a game in the World Series, but nonetheless, without him, they don't get this far. Hats off to him, and just sucks it had to come after he left the Yankees. And speaking of Yankee pitchers, I got to talk about Nathan Eovaldi. This guy has ice water in his veins. He is a proven postseason pitcher. This is now his second World Series title after being another unsung hero for the 2018 Boston Red Sox. And, again, these were the two secondary acquisitions that didn't make as much noise, but you have to give him credit where credit is due for helping Texas to win their first ever World Series title. Now, let's talk about some of the hitters in this lineup. Marcus Semien, signed him to a big 7-year mega deal a couple years ago. This after he broke the record for most home runs by a second baseman, and after Oakland refused to give him a decent contract. Well, now he's a World Series with Texas. Very happy for him. And Adolis Garcia, who even though he missed the last few games, he set a record for most RBIs in a postseason and was absolutely dominant in the last few games against the Houston Astros, not to mention he had that walk-off home run. But as far as the remaining batters go, I have to mention Corey Seager. He is only the second player in baseball history to win multiple World Series MVP awards. The only other guy, it's none other than Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson. In addition, he also has the most home runs by a shortstop in the World Series. Absolutely insane. If this guy has just maybe a few more good years in his career, there's no doubt he's pretty much headed to Cooperstown when it's all said and done. So, well-deserved Corey Seager. And last but not least, I got to mention Chris Young, the GM, who pretty much did an exceptional job of building that team after turning them around from when they had one of their worst seasons in franchise history, but one of the biggest moves he made, of course, was hiring Bruce Bochy. The reason I'm wearing this Giants hat, by the way, who now won his 4th World Series title. He's one of only 3 managers to lead 3 different teams to the World Series, and yeah, is there even a doubt that he's going to the Hall of Fame? I don't think so. But yeah, those are some of the people that I'm happiest for. I do want to say this, though. Arizona Diamondbacks, I have to give them a huge tip of the cap, too. This is a team that had one of the most unlikely runs in postseason history. They faced a pitching deep Milwaukee Brewers team who, granted, they lost Brandon Woodruff, but they still found a way to win both games against them on the road, no less. They face off against a historically strong offensive team in the Los Angeles Dodgers. They sweep them, and then they have one of the biggest comebacks in NLCS history against the defending National League champion Philadelphia Phillies. You know, hats off to them for that run, and while unfortunately for them they ran into an absolute buzzsaw in the Texas Rangers and a team that was dominant on the road, the fact that they even got there with the young core featuring the likes of Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, to name a few, this is a team that if they continue if they can make some good moves this offseason, they have a relatively wide window to keep making runs. Zach Gallen was another strong pitcher for them. I mean, he didn't give up a hit until the 7th inning, but unfortunately he just ran out of gas, and ultimately the Diamondbacks couldn't give him any run support. Merrill Kelly was another good pitcher, and that bullpen they had for the most part was absolutely lights out. But again, once they got to the World Series, they just ran out of gas. But nothing for them to hang their heads at, and we'll see if they can build off of their success within the next few years, especially with the promising young talent on that roster. And another name I forgot to mention was Gabriel Moreno, who looks like he's going to be their catcher for years to come. Some clutch hits in this postseason too, and he's still pretty young. The fact that they even got him in that trade for Dalton Varsho, that's an absolute robbery to say the least. But that's pretty much all I have for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but hats off to them.